All right. We have folks coming in. All right. Maybe just a few more seconds. All right, I think we're ready to get started. So let's go ahead and kick things off. Welcome, everyone. This is the third installment of the Casita Coalition webinar series. We're really excited to have your participation here today. And just in terms of the ground rules and flow for the presentations, I'm just going to lay out where we are going in terms of the agenda. So we're first going to hear from Caleb Smith, who works for San Mateo County. And his other hat is the chair and leader of our local governance and ADU financing working group. And we also have Helen Leung, who is the co-executive director for LA MAS. And she's going to talk about their innovative model that focuses on ADUs for low-income occupants. So when you have your questions, please go ahead and submit them through the Q&A. You could also use the chat feature, and you could also use the raise your hand feature. But the Q&A is going to go after both speakers have presented, so that'll be around 4:10 p.m.-ish. So we'll have plenty of time for Q&A, and then we'll wrap up. I also just wanted to, again, thank our premier sponsors and premier members and sponsors, which include CZI, the Chan Zuckerberg Institute, for their generous support there. We received our first grant from them, so we're really excited about that funding, and we're really excited to use those funds to help us advance Casita Coalition into a nonprofit organization with staff. And we also have our website, casitacoalition.org. So their support really helped advance things forward. We also received support from AARP, the Barry Council, CBIA, the California Builder Industry Association, California Community Builders, and Greystar Development. So again, many thanks for your generous support, and many thanks to you who have personally donated as an individual member of Casita Coalition. We know it's tough times right now, given all that's going on with our public health crisis. So we are very sincerely appreciative of any amount you could donate. We chose a great time to kick off our membership fundraising, but if you are unable to contribute as a member financially, we will honor your membership benefits through the end of the year, non-paying members, as long as you're a passionate volunteer. And those who do contribute, your membership will continue through 2021. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to our first speaker, Caleb Smith.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's my pleasure to be here today sharing some of the work that the Casita Coalition's ADU Finance Work Group has been up to, as well as the Casita Coalition's Local Government and Amnesty Work Group. Let's see, I think I just dropped into the chat a link to the Casita Coalition's Google Drive folder. There's going to be several spreadsheets that I'm going to be referring to during my presentation today, and you're more than welcome to check them out as I talk a little bit about them. Everyone should be able to see those. And I've also shared my email address in case anyone has any questions for later on. So let me pull up my presentation now. Awesome. So let's first talk a little bit about ADU finance because I know that's a very popular topic. So there's two key reasons why the ADU Finance Work Group exists in the Casita Coalition. The first one is that as we Casita Coalition members are thinking about what we can do to help increase the supply of ADUs in California and make it easier to build them, the ability to access financing is cited as a really key barrier. It's not entirely clear how many homeowners aren't able to build an ADU who are interested in an ADU on account of not being able to access financing. However, time and time again, we hear that this is a major problem. As a matter of fact, when Oakland did their report into ADUs, which was released a few months ago, the ability to finance ADUs was cited as a top obstacle that homeowners faced when they went out and surveyed homeowners who were interested in ADUs about why haven't they already built an ADU. And then there's also a really key issue here around equity, because we know that ADUs are a really fantastic opportunity for homeowners to affordably house a family member, to age in place in their neighborhood they know and love, and to also earn more income, which can help pay mortgage or other key household expenses. And if we want this fantastic opportunity to be broadly accessible to Californians, then we need to make sure that there are ADU finance options that are broadly available to homeowners of all types and of all income levels. So we're really interested in pursuing that too. So in terms of what the ADU Finance Work Group has been up to, we've been having roughly quarterly calls for about maybe a year now. And our primary focus has been about gathering information and sharing interesting ideas and practices, because when it comes to ADU finance, there is no single silver bullet for ADU finance. There's probably going to be different options that are going to work best for different homeowners based on where you are in California, what kind of ADU you're building, and what your particular financial situation is going to be. So one of the spreadsheets in our Google Drive folder is a master list of ADU finance programs, where we're trying to create a comprehensive list of ADU finance programs from nonprofits, local governments, as well as private institutions and businesses that have interesting models for financing ADUs, whether that's a local revolving loan program from a city government, or whether that's perhaps something creative that an ADU builder has been doing to try to help their homeowners afford ADU construction. So in addition to trying to share some of those best practices in quarterly calls, we're also interested in some of the structural factors that have made it difficult for more ADU finance options to exist. One of the key ones that we've been hearing is that homeowners have, there have been concerns on the part of banks and credit unions about how to properly value ADUs, because there's still a relatively new phenomenon in terms of something that's been legal and popular. So appraisers have had some problems. So something that we're going to be working on is reaching out to the California Association of Realtors to ask for their help in adding some form of ADU checkbox and potentially some other opportunities to collect information on ADUs when homes are being listed for sale. Because if the appraisers can more easily identify houses that recently sold with an ADU, it'll be easier for them to sort of pull out the value of an ADU and come up with more accurate and consistent appraisals. Also, that information about how many houses recently sold with ADUs will be very useful as we go to Fannie and Freddie and ask them for their help to perhaps make it easier to resell ADU loans on the secondary market. Another obstacle that we hear in terms of why more banks and credit unions haven't stepped in to help with that. Another project that we have underway is trying to work with county level assessors to make a little bit more transparency about the property tax impacts of ADUs. We know that ADUs should not lead to a full reassessment of properties. They should lead to some more property taxes based on the value of the new construction. However, a lot of homeowners don't exactly know that. And if homeowners think that an ADU is going to trigger a full property tax reassessment of their entire property, you know, losing that Prop 13 assessment, then that pretty much shuts down their interest in building an ADU in a lot of cases. So we have a volunteer project that we would love to have your help with, reaching out to county assessors and asking them to put something like a fact sheet online. So if you're a builder or a local government staffer, you can point to that and say, look, there'll be some impacts, but they're going to be pretty limited. Maybe a month or two's worth of your annual rent would be the property tax. We're also broadly interested in exploring new ideas for ADU finance, sharing about opportunities to finance new ADU loan programs, that kind of thing. There's a lot of creative ideas that have come out there in terms of ways to better finance ADUs beyond the traditional spectrum of home equity line of credit, mortgage refinance, that kind of thing. We can talk a little bit more about some of these specific ideas during the Q&A today, if people are curious about them. However, if you're going to tune into a webinar on a Friday afternoon, I figured the least I could do would be to share a little bit of a list of some of the ideas that I've heard out there. Half a dozen, in no particular order, are shared equity agreements, which is kind of like a loan, but technically structured more like a stock option, where how much money the back for the cost of the ADU is based on their future home value. Something maybe a bit more like a grant, where you're having the builder provide the cost of construction, and the builder technically owns the ADU for maybe 15 or 20 years, and the homeowner gets a cut of the monthly rent from that ADU being rented out. Another idea has been chattel lending, perhaps fund ADUs similar to mobile homes, how mobile homes are financed. There's a community investment fund, which seems to be a specialized investment vehicle that some folks are interested in. Some people have expressed interest in real estate crowdfunding, which has been used for stuff like home flipping before. Some people think it could be viable for ADUs. Some people have been interested in perhaps a local revolving fund capitalized by the federal government's Section 108 HUD loan program. And then also there's been some interest I've been hearing in perhaps doing something similar to California's property assessed clean energy loan program, but do it for ADUs, which is sort of a special way to structure loans. So those are some of the ideas I've been hearing. There's probably plenty more ideas that are out there, and I always love hearing about new ones. Some of these ideas might be promising. One or two of them I frankly find kind of scary. There are a lot of options that are out there. However, the ADU finance work group is really not trying to say that this is the holy grail, this one idea is the holy grail of ADU finance, because there's multiple right answers here. So if you're interested in getting involved, please feel free to join our quarterly calls and share what you've been working on, what you're interested in. We'd be really grateful for some support letters to share with the California Association of Realtors about our drive to add an ADU checkbox to the home listing forms on the multiple listing services, because it will be so incredibly helpful as we try to improve the quality of ADU appraisals. The County Assessors Project, we're always happy to have more help with that. Please email me if you're interested in that. And if you do see our ADU finance spreadsheet and you know of something that your local credit union's been working on or something your company's been working on, please feel free to add anything that you think might be new and interesting, because the more best practices we share, the more best practices will get enacted. Cool. So I also want to take a few quick minutes to go through some of the work the Local Government Amnesty Work Group has been up to. So 3 key focuses for this work group. First off is looking at some of the planning code questions and concerns around the new state laws. It's a big change, a big adjustment for a lot of cities. Well, we're probably going to have these current set of rules for the foreseeable future. We do have a spreadsheet in that shared drive folder where people can list questions and concerns that came up, because there might be some instances where some further clarification from the State Housing and Community Development Department would be helpful for cities that are confused about what they can do, what they cannot do, that kind of thing. There is a lot of interest in finding new ways for local governments to not just do the minimum the state requires of them, but to actively promote ADUs through various kinds of incentive programs, because I think a lot of communities see the value of ADUs as one piece of the puzzle when it comes to addressing the affordable housing crisis that faces California. So we want to try to share some best practices about that. And then also another really key piece here is trying to help the hundreds of thousands of unpermitted or legacy ADUs that are found around California that people often use as a source of affordable housing. It used to be very difficult or impossible to legally build an ADU, and a lot of people didn't wait for the government to tell them they could do it. They made their own affordable housing solution. So we want to try to help make sure that those are safe and affordable places for people to live. So once again, we've been trying to share information. In addition to the tracker I mentioned for planning code questions and concerns, we also have a tracker for pre-approved ADU plan programs. For those who are perhaps unfamiliar with it, a pre-approved ADU plan program is a program where instead of a builder having to take the same set of plans to the city and have that go through the full review process for zoning review, for building code review, over and over and over again, if it's the exact same set of plans, then potentially, as San Jose has done, the builder could come to the city once, have it reviewed once, and in any subsequent occasion, they get that particular plan set and they say, we want to build the exact same thing on a different person's lot. The city says, we remember this plan set, go right ahead. It's been pre-approved. So that's one way to do pre-approved plans. Other cities, they've hired a local architect to come up with several sets of maybe free plans that have been pre-approved and are now available to homeowners. There's a lot of interest in that. Our tracker so far has 40 cities and counties which either have these programs or are in the process of developing them. So this is something that we see as potentially a really good opportunity for local governments to encourage ADU development. And something that we might be interested in is exploring opportunities for multiple local governments to potentially collaborate. Because as fantastic as it is that a lot of cities have said on their applications for state planning grants, we want to take some of the state money and we'll hire an architect and we'll put together 3 or 4 pre-approved ADU plans. Having 40 different sets of pre-approved ADU plans that are not mutually compatible across California might not be the most efficient and highest impact way to encourage more ADU development. So if cities can find a way to work together, then hopefully that will really multiply the impact of these kinds of initiatives. So if you are a city staffer who are interested in the possibility of collaboration on that, please do send me an email. Hopefully we can follow up about that. And then we're also really interested in case studies of successful programs to encourage ADU development and good amnesty programs, calling a little bit of a plug in what's been going on in our backyard, no pun intended. San Mateo County has had a fairly successful amnesty program for ADUs, so hopefully we'll be able to pull together a case study to share that out because we've had success in helping homeowners feel more comfortable coming to the building department saying, hey, I have an unpermitted unit, and then hopefully getting that safe and permitted. So you're more than welcome as usual to join the work group, share your ideas, and then also please feel free to once again add to the multiple trackers and reach out if you're interested in getting involved with this work, because the more best practices we share, the more happen. So I think that that's all of what I've got going on with this particular part of the presentation right now. So I think it'd be perfect time to shift gears to another presentation that I, for one, have very much been looking forward to.
Thank you so much, Caleb. And as Helen is getting her presentation geared up, she's also going to speak about innovative financing model using Section 8 vouchers. But we do have a couple of questions that we may want to just hold off until the Q&A. But let me see. Helen, are you there with us?
Yes, can everyone see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep.
Hi, everyone.
All right.
Greetings from Los Angeles. My name is Helen. I'm one of the co-executive directors of LA Mas, and we are a nonprofit organization working in community development, and we've been working on affordable ADUs. As I mentioned, we've been in LA for the last 5-6 years, and I think in addition to our work kind of combining our urban design expertise, we also primarily focus on how we can support underserved and lower income communities. And that is kind of the goal of our ADU work, to make it accessible and affordable. LA, I'm going to briefly just go over this. LA has a lot of ADU potential with over 500,000 single family lots, which is actually 50% of all developable land in Los Angeles, given that it's zoned for single family homes. I have to update this because now we're allowed to build ADUs on multifamily property. So get back on that slide. When we started this work, there was a lot of need in terms of our Section 8 program, with it barely being available, and when voucher holders were lucky enough to get a voucher, a lot of landlords turned them away. Since then, there actually has been a lot of regulation that bars landlords from discriminating against Section 8 voucher holders, and what we wanted to do was leverage an existing subsidy to be able to connect landlords with a somewhat of a market rate. So our experience is informed by our experience, expertise and partnering with local government. In the city of Los Angeles, we had the pleasure of working with the mayor's office and the local city council to create a single ADU, which was the pilot project in Northeast Los Angeles. This is a photo of what it looks like. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-story, craftsman-inspired ADU built on a hillside in a historic preservation overlay zone. What we learned from this experience was, how can we streamline the city's process? How can we support a homeowner who has the financing, actually has funds, but didn't have financing options? So what we were able to do was partner with Habitat for Humanity to ensure affordable construction. Our team as urban designers were the architects to make sure that we designed something contextual yet affordable. And we were able to partner with Genesis LA to test a construction loan product. And this, we're very excited, shaped what LA is currently doing. They have a program called the LA ADU Accelerator, which has financial incentives to incentivize homeowners to rent their ADUs affordably. So make sure to check out that website to see what the city of LA is currently up to. We had the pleasure of working with the County of Los Angeles. They set aside $500,000 for a series of ADU initiatives, one of which was incentivizing homeowners to build ADUs that would house someone who was formerly homeless. The details here were that the county offered $75,000 in a forgivable loan over the course of 10 years. Initially, there was enough money set aside for 3 homeowners. There's 4 in the pipeline, and we still hope that we're able to have 4 homes that have a variety of construction types and style, see a showcase for how the county innovated on a program that really blended the needs of the homeless population and the ability to partner with private homeowners. Our role here was to provide technical expertise. So both of these experiences for us, partnering with both the city and the County of Los Angeles, informed a program that we've been leading for the past year or so. It's called the Backyard Homes Project. What it is a one-stop shop that helps average homeowners become providers of affordable housing. Specifically, we're building ADUs and we're requiring homeowners participate as Section 8 landlords for 5 years. How we came to this program actually took about a year of R&D with the support of leaders in housing and development, policymaker, finance experts. We talked to real homeowners, over 100 real homeowners throughout the city, about what it would take for them to not only build an ADU, but build an ADU that was rented affordably. So the result in terms of what we heard was that a lot of people wanted someone to just manage the whole process. They didn't know what it meant to hire an architect, hire a general contractor, go through the permitting process. I think since we started this program, lots of local and state policies have changed. Financing was also a need that was identified, and for us to make this program kind of worth the endeavor as a nonprofit was to make sure that homeowners were good landlords and that the tenants that were going to move in continue to have support. So I'm going to quickly walk over the elements of the program. So our team, LA Mass, serves as both the program managers, so kind of managing the community engagement process, outreach, program partnerships, and we're also the architects. And our design build partnership is made possible because we partner with Restore Neighborhoods LA, amazing nonprofit that specializes in affordable single family, small multifamily construction. So they're our go-to general contractors. And what we did was we spent a year working with them to come up with a baseline price point for a range of different ADUs. We ultimately designed 8 ADUs. We only have 7 shown here that have a variety from garage conversions to new construction. Our goal is really to figure out how can we build something with a low cost as possible while providing predictability, but also site adaptability. So our price points start at $100,000 for garage conversions, new builds $115,000. If you go on our website, there's actually a full design package that has all the different details of our prototypes and the baseline costs. For us, as a nonprofit with urban design sensibilities, we also want to make sure what we designed was contextual to the neighborhood, as well as being affordable. So what you see here is a range of different styles that reflect the architectural diversity of Los Angeles. We have some models that help homeowners get a sense of if you build really small at 400 square feet, convert your garage, or do something less than 500 square feet, this is how it looks. In our package, there are details in terms of what the layout would be, what are the various styles. So the styles, you can kind of pick and choose depending on what the site is. The exterior doesn't have to match the interior, but we're really thoughtful about making sure that the options are accessible, durable, efficient, easy to replace, and also well designed. So you see the various styles here. We've been surprised to get so many garage conversions, just existing buildings where homeowners are interested in seeing what they can do with it. And there's various different approaches that we take. Sometimes demolishing and starting anew is cheaper. Sometimes the structure of the garage is strong enough that just adding to it is a cost-effective way to go about creating an ADU. We also wanted to make sure that we designed 2-bedroom options that were the smallest possible square footage, given just the return on investment. In Los Angeles, a 2-bedroom Section 8 voucher is like $2,200, a 1-bedroom is $1,600. So when we think about what this means financially in terms of a long-term performance, a 2-3-bedroom is ideal, but it also depends on how much homeowners have to spend and what their financing enables. So for us, it was helpful to be able to kind of create a sense of how these backyard homes have character. So you'll see the various styles from craftsman to modern to Spanish. I think what was really important for us was to be able to create financing partners. So we're really proud to have 2 CDFIs on board. Genesis LA provided us a pre-development construction loan, which made it possible for participating homeowners to tap into a loan so that they didn't have to provide any soft costs until their financing was available. Genesis LA is also providing us with vetting of the homeowners in terms of will they qualify, does this financially make sense, are we sticking with a debt to income ratio that is appropriate. Self-Help Federal Credit Union is the largest community CDFI, and they created a new mortgage product which recognizes the future value of an ADU and provide terms that are clear so that we can actually project what it means in terms of closing costs and what will be the return once a homeowner refinances. So in some ways it is a cash out refi that has clear terms, and it's something we're really excited to see because I don't think a lot of CDFIs are thinking about this, and we're hoping it'll influence the larger commercial market. What makes our program also work is if we have partners for the housing services and tenant matching. So the Housing Rights Center is an amazing nonprofit that will be training our landlords on how to become landlords and how to be Section 8 landlords. We also have 2 partners, St. Joseph Center and LA Family Housing, who are seasoned providers of permanent supportive housing, but they also work with landlords and tenants, and they will be actually matching our homeowners with tenants. Some homeowners may be interested in housing someone who's senior, a veteran, a family. So these 2 partners are going to be supporting our landlords on finding the right tenant for them and what it means to be a good landlord as well. Lastly, I want to say that our work has been supported by a range of foundations, but I do want to note Local Initiative Support Corporation of Los Angeles and Wells Fargo Foundation has been financial partners that have made this possible. We're also proud that our official partnership with the City of Los Angeles is with the Housing Department. We actually recently signed a memorandum of understanding so that HACLA would provide a role of monitoring the participation that all homeowners would be required to provide. And they're also going to streamline the property approval process. So we see this in some ways as a marketing campaign also for the Section 8 program for the city. And we're excited to see how this could really support the Section 8 program, but also mean that our landlords will be able to not be overwhelmed by what might be a bureaucratic process. This is a bit of an old slide. We spent a lot of time last year reaching out to homeowners. So as a nonprofit that kind of works throughout LA, it's hard to get a home of homeowners without having a full-on marketing campaign. So we really relied on our government and community-based partners. So we went to neighborhood council meetings, we worked with our local city council members, and we ended up getting over 200 applications in a couple of months. We're currently in the process of reviewing everyone. We have a handful in the pipeline. COVID-19 has meant that half of our homeowners are taking a pause thinking about what this means for their financing, but we're still excited to move forward. La Juana is the first homeowner that signed up, and her story is one of someone who is already a Section 8 landlord, wanted to convert her existing structure. It's the home that she grew up in that her mom bought, and she was excited to have a program that was going to take care and spearhead everything for her. So she is one example of one of our many homeowners who are excited to participate because of the program, what it offers, but also the goal of being able to house someone at a lower rent. So some of the challenges that we faced, I'm going to quickly go over this. I would say that we had spent a lot of time providing details on what is the mortgage product that's provided. There are lots of other kind of private entities offering resources that are not all in. So just making it clear that our support and our costs for building an ADU is all inclusive. But we do have to understand that so much of the vetting and so much of the education is about building relationships. So the fact that this program is made possible by 6 nonprofits and the Housing Authority is really special. And I think that is that's unique in the offering, but it is also a challenge because of all the various components of the program. I would also say that this is a big decision for many homeowners, especially when they may be able to do it on their own and make a lot more money if they charge market rate rents. So we've been very supportive of providing as much information to all homeowners and giving them options and never forcing anyone to work with us. We have a robust referral list for folks where our program doesn't make sense for them, but they might want to check out some other organizations like Building Blocks and United Dwelling and lots of great organizations in Los Angeles that are doing great work as it relates to ADUs. The lessons we've learned is that we created a complex program, and what we did was that we are continually innovating and iterating. So whenever we learn about some kink in our system, we make sure to make a change. It really is possible because we have amazing partners, especially our general contractor and our financing partners who are putting that time up front to financially vet homeowners and to also come up with a proposal that's all inclusive. So it's rare to have a homeowner get a number which is like, for $100,000, this is your soft costs and your hard costs, and we'll also be there with you until you have a tenant moving in, and we're also then going to continue supporting you as a landlord and supporting your tenants. And I would say that the other lesson learned is that because there's a lot of cash incentives throughout the nation now in terms of incentivizing affordable housing, having some cash incentive is helpful, and I think for some of our homeowners in Los Angeles, actually essential to making it financially pencil out. We initially targeted low to moderate income homeowners, and we found that moderate income homeowners are able to have financial options, whether it's our mortgage product or tapping into their own line of credit. But there are a lot of homeowners in the lower end of low to moderate income homeowners that need our product, but also need $50,000 or $30,000 to reduce their debt to income ratio. They want to provide the asset of their backyard, but for homeowners to front the full cost of that is a lot. So we're continuing to look for ways to to find cash incentives that reduce the overall cost. So what's next? So wrapping up, we're excited that we're expanding this program to LA County with a $1.5 million budget. We're continuing to look for ways to reduce the overall cost of development. Right now we're doing stick build, but we're always constantly seeing if there are other cost-effective options like modular, prefab, or other options that make it easier and possible and affordable for homeowners. We're also proud to be part of the United Way's Home for Good initiative as a grantee, so we hope to see other organizations besides ours advocating for affordably rented ADUs. We're also looking to invest in a long-term place-based strategy in Northeast LA. So in an ideal world, we would be able to do a whole bunch of them in one area and see if we can benefit from economies of scale and kind of having a shared cohort of tenants and landlords who are neighbors. I mentioned this. I think the one thing that is cool is that in LA County, we're setting aside part of that $1.5 million budget so that there is about 32,000, and the details are being refined in a forgivable loan and for a 5-year commitment. And you'll see in this map that LA City, which is where we're currently working now, is just one of 88 cities in LA County. So we're excited to see how we're gonna grow, and hopefully, depending on how COVID-19 shakes out, we hope to have you know, a handful of homeowners have a new ADU and a handful of tenants in their new ADUs by the end of the year. And we're excited to have a affordable housing strategy that's not reliant on tax credits, and exploring what it looks like to build affordable housing, not as a developer, but just as an average homeowner. I'll end there, and I will also share on the notes in the chat box my email, as well as details on our website on where you can find out more information.
All right. Thank you so much, Helen. That was fantastic. And Caleb, thank you also as well for, I don't know how you do it, how you have a full-time job and manage these working groups as chair for both the finance and the local governance, as you demonstrated in your presentation. There's so much to unpack and so many great opportunities for our Casita Coalition members to get involved with. And Helen, thank you so much for launching this really innovative, great model in LA. And, you know, just to go ahead and segue into one of the questions, and this is probably an appropriate question for both of you to address, is you know, what you mentioned some of the challenges, but what are the opportunities to scale a model like this? You know, how can we get this in the Bay Area, California statewide, or, you know, even larger? So maybe Helen, if you want to start off, and Caleb, I'd really love your input as well.
One of the things we really enjoyed hearing from our leaders in other parts of California and the US, I think that there are lots of interest in models like this, and we're often talking probably once every 2 weeks to government agencies or nonprofits that are looking to adopt something similar. I think the elements that are important is to have a government lead that is either providing some sort of streamlining permitting support, financing, or just kind of incubating a program that coordinates. Right now, what we're doing it kind of as a nonprofit leading it, but I think that it is important to have a government agency lead that effort, and to also acknowledge that government can't do all the pieces. So to have some combination of your kind of design architects and contractors kind of have clarity for the homeowner, but then also the financing is essential. So I think those have been the big pieces, making sure there's some entity to coordinate all those essential parts to building ADUs.
Sure. I think that that's a very excellent answer right there. I think that in terms of things to add, I think that it's very helpful to have local government support for these kinds of things. Though there certainly will be some times when nonprofits are perfectly capable of handling all the pieces themselves. I think for larger cities, they might want to consider something like the city of San Jose has a dedicated planner who's the ADU ally, who sort of serves as a point of contact for homeowners, and also can perhaps help coordinate, spear point these initiatives a little bit more. For smaller cities, that's probably too much to ask of them. So it might make more sense for them to think about regional ADU related programs, like I think some folks in the North Bay have been thinking about, or also really working with the wonderful nonprofits that already exist in their community to sort of try to help enhance those efforts.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree that it probably depends on the city and as when it comes to capacity issues, and those partnerships with the nonprofit organizations to help create those programs, the one-stop shops, et cetera, is really beneficial. We have a bunch of questions from Joe, so I'm going to go ahead and start asking some of those in this queue, and Joe, I'll definitely give you an opportunity to get in here, but your first question was related to the model that Caleb described, which was the shared equity. And if you could just expand on that a little bit, Caleb, and that's like the sharing of the upside and the downside with the homeowner and the company, correct? If you could just maybe dig into that a little bit.
Sure, it's a good question. Glad to talk a little bit about it, and I'll make sure it's only a little bit about it. So shared equity products are something that's come along maybe 15 years ago now, though it's really grown a fair bit recently. Basically, the financial provider, and there's maybe 4 major providers that I'm aware of who are active in California right now. They, the homeowner says, I want to take some money, a sort of a portion of my equity, and then the provider will give them an amount of money, say $75,000, let's imagine, out of $1 million house. And the homeowner uses that however the homeowner uses that. And then at some future point, maybe 10 years down the road or 30 years down the road, the provider comes back to the homeowner and they say, you've had your money, now you need to pay us back, and how much you pay back depends on how much your home value is. So if your house has doubled in value, then we'll collect some percentage of the overall appreciation. So they say in their marketing that, you know, they share in the upsides and downsides. If your house goes up in value, you pay them more than they gave you originally. If your house goes down in value, you pay them back less than they gave you originally. Now, I've been seeing this being a fairly popular thing that some builders have been pointing their customers towards recently. Personally, I have some concerns. First off is that these are structured as a financial options contract, from what I've seen, not as home mortgages, which means that all the various accumulated consumer protection regulations that apply to mortgages, the Truth in Lending Act, you know, all the stuff that we built up after the financial crisis, that goes right out the window because these aren't mortgages. And then also, if your house price goes up quickly, as we have seen has happened a lot in California recently, then there's no limit often on the upside that you could potentially pay in terms of your effective interest rate. So if your house price goes up maybe 4% per year over 10 years, you could be looking at an effective interest rate of something like 9 to 10%, which is pretty stiff. And then also, there's some kind of like specific ways that they structure these that can be somewhat problematic. Like some of the time, instead of saying, here's your starting appreciation right now based on what your home can sell for today, they artificially deflate your home value by maybe 20%. So if 10 years from now, your house is worth the exact same, you might still end up paying them more than they originally gave you. And there's all sorts of other kind of like interesting practices that they have, which raise some question marks. So they're pretty unregulated right now. They may be an option for some homeowners who really don't have any other better options, who desperately need an ADU. However, a homeowner who's interested in these kinds of products should very carefully consider the possible things that might happen, and also really consider other options too, because I mean, asking for all the repayment due at once with the high interest rates, it almost feels like the kind of thing that 30-year mortgage was invented in the 1930s to replace. So it feels like we've gone full circle, which is remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think there are some good actors out there, but I think it's good to be skeptical and just to really understand the program for your protection. So, and then for Helen, if you could just expound a little bit on your relationship with the CDFIs and just how they're able to determine the future value of the ADU. I think that is an interesting element and just something that we struggle with in terms of valuing the ADU. So.
Our partners, Self-Help Federal Credit Union, they're really thoughtful about what they could do to take on risks, but also maintain their commitment to their lenders and the rules that they have to follow as a CDFI. So they recognize up to 75% of the future value of the ADU, which takes into consideration comps in the area, kind of unofficial comps until we get to a actual assessment when we have construction plans. And the CDFI also thinks about they look at the rent that would be part of the Section 8 program. So they look at both, and I think what is done is that they give homeowners a pre-loan offer letter, which kind of gives a bit of certainty in terms of what would be the interest rate, what would be the monthly payment, so that we can plan on behalf of the homeowner in partnership with the homeowner in terms of what size makes sense, how much what is their cap, and to make sure that their return on investment still allows for a couple $100 each month of cushion and of profit. But I think that what was possible was that we spent a year working with both CDFIs, and like the relationship is essential only because one provides vetting, another provides the mortgage, and that pre-development grant that I was mentioning really is helpful, because otherwise homeowners don't want to spend $10,000 to get to the point where they know how much the ADU is actually going to cost.
Great, thank you. And Joe, I'll go ahead and give you a quick opportunity to answer any other or ask any other questions I may have omitted. But we have a queue of questions, so if we could be as succinct as possible with that, that would be great. So Joe, I unmuted you. If you could go ahead. Oh, okay, maybe I didn't. All right, maybe not.
How about now?
Sorry about that. Oh, there you go. Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead and shoot.
Okay, hi, this is Joe. I'm with Tent Makers, Inc. We're a nonprofit here in Northern California Bay Area. And Helen, we have touched bases here and there. I don't know if you remember me, but I've been interested in working with the CDFI, and right now I'm kind of discussing the matter with Wells Fargo and Union Bank. And I really would like to duplicate what you're doing there in LA, but particularly interested in the CDFI. So I would like to know if you'd be willing to share some of the information, or maybe introduce us to some of your partners in LA to see if we can maybe duplicate that here.
Sure, feel free to send me an email. Happy to share how our partnership was structured. We actually have a pretty extensive MOU that outlines responsibilities of both CDFI, our organization, and our general contractor, Restore Neighborhoods LA. And I think each CDFI is different. I think what was important was everyone got behind the goal of creating a program that would build affordably rented ADUs, and that what each partner brought to the table was something that was unique and complementary. And we can chat offline, and I'm happy to share more details, our work with CDFIs.
Great. And our next question, I'm not sure who this is, but it's M. Carlisle. Let's see if I could go ahead and unmute you here. Are you there?
Hi, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Fantastic. Yeah, Helen, this was just a quick question for you. Thank you for your presentation. I was just curious, so those costs you mentioned, so when you're quoting a potential client for 100,000 or 150,000, so that's an all-inclusive cost, including design, permitting, construction, installation, everything from the ground up?
Correct. And I think that was really important because for a lot of homeowners, investing a piece by piece to get closer to what the actual cost is something that financially doesn't make sense, and it would make it not possible. So I think for us, it was possible because we have a handful of nonprofits working together. As a nonprofit organization with architectural skills, we capped our design fee at $8,000 per project, no matter what it is, just to give our general contractor predictability on what those costs will be. And our general contractor as a nonprofit is also capping their profit and overhead and making the bids based on a line item. And together we're designing and building something that is the lowest cost possible while making sure it's well designed and durable and contextual. The exclusions for the price points really will depend on if there are any extra requests from homeowners, like maybe the homeowners like, I actually really want, a bathroom to have this, or they have site specific constraints where we're going to have to demolish something, then we'll add those things that are specific to the site and specific to the homeowner.
Great, thank you.
Great. Yeah, and I'm sorry, what was your name and affiliation?
Yeah, so I'm Marley Carlisle. I work with Habitat ADU, which is an ADU builder up here in San Francisco.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your question. Okay, great. And we have a question from Dov, and this is related to the various financing products out there. And if I could just, oh, maybe he jumped off. I don't see him anymore. Okay, never mind. Oh, wait, there he goes. Okay. Dov, if you're ready, if you want to just go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hi, this is Dov Caden. I work at SACOG, we're a regional government in the Sacramento region. I'm just kind of curious if you had thoughts, either of you, of all of the sort of existing and potential financing products that are out there, which do you see as the most promising for widespread use? Is it the one that you're sort of using right now, or is there something out there that you think really has a ton of potential?
I'll go quickly. I think it's been really interesting to see what government has done. The city of Pasadena, they released a request for proposal where they're releasing funds, 1% construction loans that are repaid back in 3 years. And it's like, so it's interesting if government is able to get a hold on money and be able to deploy funds quickly. So that's one interesting model. I think the second is private entities. I think I see Stephen Dietz on here, and he's one of the speakers later on, but his organization, United Dwelling, is able to like offer financing and just take care of everything. And perhaps the homeowner will have a slightly lower return, but they don't have to worry about the financing or the building. So I think that it's interesting to think about financing that happens in this one-stop shop way. Although we do, we're piecing together various different parts. So that's fascinating. And I think the third is that the renovation loans, the Fannie back ones, like we've seen people be able to use that. And I'm hoping that once we are able to test the cash out refi that self-help is offering, that we're able to innovate on that and share best practices as well.
Sure, and perhaps I'll also chime in too on that one. I think that those are all very good points there. I think that we're going to see there being different options working well for different kinds of homeowners and different types of ADU construction. I think the really big dividing line is going to be between detached ADUs and stuff that's more interior ADUs and JADUs because some of like the legal considerations are different. In the long run, I'm very hopeful that private lending institutions like banks and credit unions are going to be able to do more to help out homeowners with those kinds of things, but we do need to help address some of the structural barriers to them being able to make those loans first. In terms of some of the more creative options that are out there, if a local government is interested in helping ADU finance, there are several options that are available to them. One concept I forgot to mention earlier that's been tossed around has been some form of loan guarantee to help private institutions possibly make these kinds of loans. So that's one option that a local government could consider, and would be a relatively light touch and relatively uncomplicated approach to do that. I think that there might be one or two Casita Coalition members who are currently looking into that. And if you reach out to me, I can share more. I'm intrigued by the whole ground lease model, which if I understand correctly, United Dwelling has been doing something similar for garage conversions. And there's also been some folks doing that for detached ADUs. There continue to be perhaps some legal questions about that in terms of what kind of financial security is involved for the ADU builder who's providing that, and then also what kind of rights the homeowner has, because this is a very new arrangement, but it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then if a local government is looking to create its own loan program, like Helen mentioned, a couple of funding sources to be mindful of. The state of California has a affordable housing program, CalHome program. They had a notice of funding availability earlier this year, and we'll probably have another one next year. You can, as a local government or as a nonprofit, apply for money through that program for ADU loans of up to $100,000 per ADU. So there are some restrictions on what you can do with that, but that's an interesting option for local governments. And if you are currently a local government that receives community development block grant funding from the federal government, then you can probably borrow money from the federal government's Section 108 loan program that HUD also operates, and potentially set up something like that, set up an ADU lending program along those lines too, because I think I have seen one or two local governments use community development block grant funding for ADUs in the North Bay.
Great. Thank you so much, Caleb and Helen. And we're getting to the end here, but we do have Denise Kingston. We may have time for, oops, what did I do? Okay. So Denise, you should be unmuted.
There we go. How's that?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon during this difficult time for everybody. I just wondered, Caleb, if you could talk for a minute so people who are on the webinar know how to participate in your working group or how to contact you if they have suggestions. And I also wanted to share with you that I spoke with Carol Galante at the Turner Center for Housing Innovation this morning, and she indicated that the Turner Center would be interested in assisting us in thinking through next steps for working with Fannie and Freddie and lenders on creating the right lending environment to support ADUs. And also make sure that you mentioned the appraisal letter that we're pulling together. Why don't you just talk that through a little bit so people have thoughts, they can share them with us offline.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for the update on that. It's wonderful to hear the Turner Center is going to be able to help with that. And I'd also happy to clarify a little bit more about the appraisals. So as I mentioned earlier during the webinar, we're interested in trying to improve the quality and consistency of ADU appraisals because it'll make it easier for more businesses, banks and such to enter the ADU lending sphere. The Casita Coalition will be writing a letter to the California Association of Realtors asking for their help in including something like an ADU checkbox or potentially other information about what the ADU on a property is, so we have better information available for the appraisers to find comparison properties and find an apples to apples comparison and come up with accurate appraisals. From Casita Coalition members, we are interested in support letters, explaining how important ADU finance is and how much we would appreciate help with this. We have some form letters that we can provide you to help you work off of that. And as we think about what information would be most useful to collect when a house is being sold. We would love to get some feedback on sort of what would be used in your checkbox if there was the opportunity to collect more information when a home is sold and there's an ADU on there. So if you're interested, or if you're interested in joining the quarterly calls, or if you have any questions or want more information about anything I mentioned today, please send me an email. My email is, once again, csmith, number 1, at smcgov.org. And also, I should note that we have a follow-up call specifically on the whole ADU appraisal thing. That's happening at 2 p.m. This coming Thursday. You're welcome to join. If you're interested, please once again send me an email.
Great, thank you. And Denise, by the way, is the president and chair of the Casita Coalition Board. So thank you so much for all your leadership. And I know we're pushing it, but I did want to give another maybe 30 seconds to Debbie Sanders, another Casita Coalition board member. And if we could just give a very quick, less than 30-second answer, and then we could just go ahead and wrap up here. But Debbie, did you want to just go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, mine was a question for Helen, and it's basically, when all is said and done, how much does this program reduce the total cost for the homeowner?
Thank you for your question. I was just typing my response. I would say that our total cost per square foot is lower than the industry average, but that's only because we're nonprofit organizations that are able to rely on foundation grants so that we don't have to pay for our staff time through the architectural process or through construction administration. So I would say that on average, it is just like a lot lower per square foot. I think that the value that is hard to calculate is that we're their project managers. We're helping a homeowner with every step of the way. And I don't know if that is usually actually something that homeowners will pay for, and that's something we're not charging. And I think that's time and education and just like making sure that we're advocating for the best option for homeowners, because this is a big investment. And you know, helping a homeowner find a tenant and just being able to just present that and help them with the lease, like those are all the details that I think make it possible, because we're a bunch of nonprofit organizations. But I don't know if that should go into the cost of an ADU, because that wouldn't be a normal cost of development for most homeowners.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Helen, for sharing more about your great model. It was really fascinating to hear more about that, and hopefully we have that everywhere in every community. And thank you so much, Caleb. As he mentioned, we do have some calls to action. We will circulate the presentations and host it on our Casita Coalition website, as well as a copy of this webinar. And if we didn't get to everyone's questions, we will do so with a follow-up email. So I'll make sure to circle back with you, Helen and Caleb, for any outstanding questions that we can get to today. But again, thank you all for your participation. Please reach out to Caleb. There's so much we could do in terms of getting a consistent value by working with the realtors and the appraisers. We can work together as cities regionally with pre-approved plans. So if you're ready to roll up your sleeves and help us, Caleb's your guy. So again, thanks to all of you for your participation, and have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all.